Alright, so here we are at phase 1 of installing the hydraulic handbrake in my E46. I got all the cup holders and stuff removed, the trim around there. My plan is to cut right here and then along this seam. Alright, so I cut through that piece. It's kind of like foam and there's like a hard plastic underneath it. And now I traced the line for right here. I'm just going to cut right along that seam. This one might be a little bit harder, but we'll see. Alright, so I got that trim piece removed. If you're going to do that, be very careful if you're using a knife. You could use like a Dremel or something, but that just happened to work out for me. But always be careful using blades and such. Don't want to cut off a finger or something. But anyway, so we got the ASD reverse mount hydro. So it kind of keeps everything out of the way there, and I can run the lines underneath the trim and then down through the trans tunnel so they won't be exposed. I've seen a lot of people kind of mount them right here, back here. I just really don't like the way it looks. This will kind of keep it all out of the way if everything goes as planned, so hopefully. But yeah, I'm gonna peel back the carpet here and see what I can do for some brackets. Alright, so starting with the carpet removal, removing this part right here. Be very careful because there's wires underneath it. Luckily, I didn't nick any of them. Basically, I'm going to remove this little bit up to there and then back. I'm going to leave most of it on this curve so that it'll look kind of seamless, like you won't be able to tell that there's any exposed metal showing, so it'll look nice and clean once I put that other piece back on. Alright, so I figured it'd probably be a good idea to get these wires out of the way before I started welding and stuff. There's kind of like a separation of the carpet here. You can pull it up. Doubt you can see. No, you can't. But anyway, there's two little like CAN bus terminals. They kind of just slip onto like a little bolt in there. Just pry them off and they'll come right out like that. And then you can pull all these wires up out of the way. Alright, so here's the bracket I'm working on. Got most of it tacked in, and then I've ran one little bead. What I'm doing is I kind of do like a tack, and then while it's still hot and you can still see the little pool of molten metal, you move over and do another tack and you kind of just put them on top of each other. It seems to be working out, keeping like mess down. I'm using a Harbor Freight special flux core, so it kind of just throws stuff everywhere. But I'm gonna go get some more wire from the store and then finish this up and put it in the car. Alright, so I'm on the way back from the store to get some more welding wire. I just wanted to show how loud it is with just this small piece of carpet missing. Granted, I have solid motor and transmission mounts, but usually it's much quieter than this. Just listen to this. It's I would hate to have that, so that's why I'm putting all the carpet back. Don't do things that are going to make you hate your car, especially if it's your daily driver. Alright, so here's the finalized bracket. I really only cleaned up the part you're going to see. I'm going to paint it over it anyway, but all this will be tucked underneath. I did like a little 90-degree to weld onto the transmission tunnel just to give it some extra support. This thing's pretty thick. I think it's like 1/16 inch gauge steel, but it's all stacked together and I welded everything on top of each other, so I think it should fit pretty good, not flex or anything. Alright, I'm about to get in here and start welding. All I really did was kind of sand up this area, and then I used a hammer to massage it down flat instead of being all curved up and stuff. But yeah, let's see if I can stick this to the car and hopefully I don't burn a hole through it. Alright, just finished up welding the bracket in. It looks absolutely atrocious because of all this spatter here, but I'm not going to bother cleaning it up because nobody's going to see it. This is the only part you're going to see. Made sure that looked nice. Clean it up with the grinder and everything, if it'll focus. So yeah, that looks okay. But it's stuck in there pretty good. The paint's still wet, or I'd show you. I was hitting it with my fist and this thing wasn't moving. I put a little 90-degree angle iron bracket right there. I think that gave it a little bit extra support. Alright, so here's the finished product. I put all the little carpet pieces back. I'll probably end up stitching them together. I'm just putting it back because I'm not doing the fittings for the brake lines right now. Here's the plate. And I'll go grab the handbrake so you can kind of see what it looks like. Alright, so I've got the handbrake all bolted up now. And I got my lines pretty much run. They're not connected yet, but I chose to go with Banjo Bolts coming out of the master cylinder to -3 AN braided lines, which go down through and then down. There was like a little rubber plug there that I used. And then I put some zip ties to keep these from rubbing on each other, because you don't want metal rubbing on metal. And then I'm going to have to tee it into the brakes downstairs. I'll put like a list of all the adapters and stuff I use to do this, but I think this is probably the cleanest way you could do it. I had to trim a little piece right there to fit over the adapter plate, and then a little window for the lines to run through. But I think it looks pretty good. Once all the interior and stuff's back in, it'll look like it's almost supposed to be there. Alright, so I chose to go with the Banjo Bolts because whenever you have a hard line or even a braided line coming out, they don't like to bend very much. So you're going to have like a good bit sticking off the top. This way it keeps everything kind of all tucked behind there. I think it looks pretty nice. But yeah, I just cut like a little window that goes straight up. You can barely even see it. Okay, so have our -3 line coming down to this little T, and basically there's 2 brake lines for the rear calipers. There's one for each caliper, so we're going to intercept it right here, and it's going to flow up through the handbrake and then back down the other one, and then same thing over here. I just left the fittings off this one so I didn't get confused between the inlet and the outlet. These are your fuel, send and return lines. These are your brake lines. There's a bunch of little like bracket things that hold it up here, but I went ahead and took those off so I had more room to work with. I kind of already pre-bent this line a little bit because I'm going to need a 90-degree bend fit in this T adapter. So I bent it as much as I could with it still connected. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it, finish bending the rest, and then get it connected up to these little flare nuts here. Forgot to mention, I'm using one of these little tubing cutter things. You just kind of screw it up. I'm looking at the camera, not my hand. You kind of screw it down, it tightens, and then you spin it, and the little blade will cut. So yeah, I would film myself doing this, but I only got 2 hands here, and one's holding the camera, so yeah. Alright, so it looks a bit dicey right now, but I'm gonna end up hard mounting it with the little bolt holes and stuff eventually. But here's the gist of it. You got your 2, this is your original brake line, cut it, put the T in, sends it up to the master cylinder, and then it goes all the way up, back down, behind here, and then into this other T, and it connects them. So basically, these 2 and these 2 were connected, and I just did the little T things. Worked out pretty good. If you've never done these flares before, I would recommend practicing, because I messed it up twice, and it sucked. Everything is plumbed up, and brakes are bled. Handbrake is bled. I decided to just drain the rear brakes completely of the brake fluid because I was trying to do the flares and it kept dripping, and I messed up the flare. It was just a bad time. So I decided to just let it all drain out. I don't know if you can see it, that little V, and then there's another one that says H. Basically, the front and rear brakes are separate, and then they go to the ABS thing. So you can let the rears drain, and you don't have to worry about the fronts too much. I decided to bleed all of them just to be safe, make sure there was no air bubbles in the front, and I didn't see any. All the carpet is back in its place, and it's almost like these lines don't even exist. I'm pretty happy with that. So with all the carpet back in here, you can hardly tell that there's any lines here, which is super sick. I'm so happy with that. What lines? I just want to show the cuts I originally made for this trim. This was the first one, and then it kind of holds it together with the shifter trim bracket and then the little cup holder thing that slides in. Then there's the other one. And you really can't see it when you get in or out of the car. So I think it ended up pretty good. If you really like look under there, you can tell, but not too bad. Alright, finally got everything back together. Looking good. In case you were wondering, the glove box does fit, and it fits when it opens. I'm holding it with my foot right now because the little mounty tab's broken. I don't want to deal with it, but you can see it opens, trust me. I'm not dealing with this right now.